Let's talk about the green fiat currency, okay? That's basically backed up by nothing. If you really look at it, it's like an empty shell. But then look around you, man. How many people around you in your existence look like empty shells? You know what I'm saying? Like most of the time, even it could be yourself. You've put yourself to live for others, or for, you know, for the satisfaction of what others think. You may live for things around you. In actuality, that's you giving your soul away. You know, you're not able to experience things because you've tied yourself to certain balls and chains that keep you from experiencing things. You know what I'm saying? You may have to keep up with a bill, so you can't afford to take vacation. You may have had the responsibility of, you know, having a child without being very well prepared. So you actually have to live for your child as well. You may have pets. You have to live for your pets. You can't, you know, you can't leave the responsibility to somebody else, or nobody's available to take care of your pets, for example. All these things, you know, they're enjoyable, but they become burdens to some extent. You get what I'm saying? And when you start to look at the green fiat currency, okay, it's backed up by nothing. It's just paper. You get what I'm saying? Now, when you look at fiat currency, right? Whoever, I mean, like I said, there's a lot of super ultra spiritual people who will start to look at money differently. And I was one of those at one point where I said my philosophy's changed. I was in a flow, and then it's like that flow got cut because of what I bought into as far as that philosophy. Now, here's the thing, and I want to get into this topic and then continue on what I was talking about. But I'll get into this because I don't want to forget what I have to say. But the Bible was written by men, right? And supposedly man that was inspired by God. We have people online or books that we may read, you know what I'm saying? Certain people inspire us, right? They inspire you, but it's not for you to look at it as like the God that you would look at outside of yourself. Because you actually look at these people that you listen to online like Christians or people who put all their faith and belief in God. And that's exactly how some people like build a following online. It's just a bunch of fans, you know what I'm saying? Or a bunch of people who are depending on this speaker to give them the answers. You get what I'm saying? So when you look at the Bible, for example, it was written by man, inspired by God. There could be people online. There could be writers or certain speakers that inspire you, right? But it's going to be a beautiful thing once you realize the God in all things, right? So if I listen to a speaker and he happened to inspire me to write a book now, or inspired me to take actions, or had me realize something that was not going in my favor in life, and upon hearing this speaker, you know what I'm saying? He kind of shed a light on things. He was very impactful to me, you know what I'm saying? So I was inspired to take action. But I was inspired by God in that sense, where that person is a mirror or a reflection or a version of me. You get what I'm saying? So I was still inspired by God, yet that God is me. Because all things out here are me. So if I get inspired by something out here, this is where I got into the video that I just made. If you haven't watched them, my past 3 videos I went on this, where instead of you going outside to look for information, you've tapped within in your storehouse library of all the information you need, right? The things outside of you aren't going to be answering questions for you. They're just going to be connecting dots to the work that you've been doing already. You get what I'm saying? It may inspire you and motivate you. Hunches and inspirations inspired by God, because all things out here are God. You get what I'm saying? All things out here are you, and they're all God. You realize the God in all things. So the way man misinterprets the philosophy of, you know, the Bible was written by man who was inspired by a God outside of themselves. This is a misunderstanding of that philosophy. You hear what I'm saying? Because I can be inspired to do something and it was inspired by another God. Because God, it could be any person. It could be a bum in the street. That's God. And I was inspired to do something. It could be from a bum in the street, or it could be from the most powerful person on the planet. But all things are you. Everything is you inverted inside out. So when you start to look at this now, I want to go into the topic of the money. And money is an empty vessel. You get what I'm saying? But many people here are empty vessels. You may be an empty vessel. You get what I'm saying? That's why they say get into the spirit of something, right? You get inspired. So I got inspired to be a gardener. I had to become a gardener. So I started gardening, for example. You know what I'm saying? There may be things I want to do. I have to become that before I do that. But I have to become that first within me. I have to become that. You know? It's like Jim Rohn once said, where if you want to be a millionaire and somebody hands you $1 million, you best become a millionaire or you don't get to keep the money. So you have to become a millionaire. That's why people who get handed money, they can't hold on to that money. Money's a bitch. You can manage that money based on the relationship you have with money and what your perception on it is. You know what I'm saying? Like when you have a woman, okay, and you happen to meet her, you have to invest time into her to get to know her. You invest time into her for love to grow, right? But it's your energy, your frequency. If you got game, you could be the ugliest dude, you'll still be able to hold on to that chick. But if you're a physically attractive guy, then that's always, brownie points on your end to be able to attract people into your life. But you can become attractive in many different ways. It doesn't have to be physical. If you got game, women will still play with you. You know what I'm saying? Even if you're not a physically attractive dude. So with money, for example, it's something that you would happen to attract. You get what I'm saying? But then what do you do with this money? How do you manage this money? You know what I'm saying? As far as making investments, as far as your mentality toward it. See, here's the thing. When I go outside in my garden, okay, my harmonious passion toward what I am doing as a gardener, all right, affects my plants. One would categorize me as a green thumb, right? Now, when you count money, don't you do this, right? You start to count money like this, right? So money is green too. Money is love. You make money what you perceive money to be. And however you perceive it to be is how it will attract to you. If you have a fucked up energy when you walk out in your garden, you won't have a green thumb. With me, I walk out in my garden, things just accidentally grow. I mean, I fucking, things grow and I'm not even intentionally trying to grow it. You get what I'm saying? I planted a certain amount of seeds and I got more things coming up just based on like maybe escaped seeds from compost and whatnot. But I mean, I just happen to see that and I say, wow, this is love. This is abundance. This is how it happens. It just grows. Like and then another way is the way I set up the garden, based on knowledge, but also based on a certain knowing. Because my passion is so high that I happen to know exactly what I need to do in the garden. Because if I happen to do research and follow somebody else's method online, it may not work the same way for me. But the fact that I did it based on, faith in a knowing I have, even how I prune my plants, it just intuitively happened that I went underneath one of my trees and I happened to just pretend I was the tree and where I want the light to come in. So I started to break some of the stems or prune some of the stems rather, to see and from that perspective underneath the tree, see how the light comes in. Not just from an overview, doing it like a human. I literally became the tree and I started to prune the tree, but I didn't look that up. It just happened. And my tree happened to flourish 3 times the size that I expected it to grow. Gave me more fruit than I expected. This is actually my citrus tree. I only had like 3 lemons on it. I pruned it and I got like 20 lemons out of it now. And I mean, they're green. They're not ready yet. But it just goes to show that sometimes it just happens, Certain things just happen. I didn't look it up. I was like, I got to look up how do I prune these trees? And then that just happened. I just did it, So if you look at it, where you have a green thumb is based on it's all based on your energy, your frequency that you emit, right? A heart-brain coherence that you come out and the plants actually sense that around you, okay? And just like nature is neutral, money is neutral too. Your energy and frequency is going to determine how this money gets attracted to you. Now, if you're doing your gifts and talents, this is where it takes a little bit of self-work on your end to know what your gifts and talents are, because your gifts and talents, nobody could do them like you can. There's only one of you, and that's it. Nobody could do it better than you. And once you discover what those true gifts and talents are that get you up off your ass to do it, right? And you're doing it with such passion that money ain't even a thing. It's just the same way that the green of nature starts to grow and you're perceived as having a green thumb. The green of money happens to be attracted to you and comes to you in the same way. Why? Because with money, what do you do with money? With money, you build things, right? You structure things. You build companies. You pay employees. You make things happen with money, right? So money is a building frequency, growing, harmonious frequency, just like the trees are. And they both happen to be green. Now there's an instability way of looking at that green, right? Where you're more in the imbalanced way of just materialism, but not really balancing it in a sense where you're looking at it from source first. You're looking at it as worshiping things outside of you. That's an imbalance. It's just like your root chakra. People would look at it at the root chakra as like, you know, the lower chakras and then favor the ones above, but the lower chakras are the ones that make it possible for the tree above to be strong because you got strong roots. But if you're imbalanced, then that tree is going to be imbalanced. It's going to be easily tipped over, or it won't get the right nutrients because you're not working with nature. You're just working against nature, where in a sense where if you work with nature, you'll have all the support of nature. Hence, humans have the support of what you would want to call the universe. Because if you look at nature, you got the mycelium network, you got all the other trees around you. The rest of nature is actually going to assist you if you need something. Like a tree in nature, when it needs nutrients, that is possible through that mycelium network. Underneath, all the trees will actually communicate to that sick tree and try to send all the nutrients to that tree to help it thrive and survive. But when you're like a little garden plant, disconnected from the rest of the plants, is going to seem like it's survival of the fittest. Right? So that's why it's important to work in communities. You know, talk to people of like minds. But at the end of the day, you don't have to go chase these people. Your vibe attracts your tribe. You're going to happen to attract certain people into your life that are going to give you brilliant ideas. But it may come in the form of things that you may not even expect. Right? You may have an ultra spiritual Christian come to you and you may discard him because he's Christian and he doesn't really entertain your philosophy. When in actuality, he may tie other things for you that you may need in your life that may even connect what you actually have as a philosophy that doesn't combine with his, because you're able to decode it, right? At the end of the day, how do you even know your philosophies are truth? They're only truth to you because you are in resonance with it. That's why when you listen to information online, you're like, oh, I resonate with that. Is it true? You're only resonating with it. And then later on, you may change your viewpoint on it. Like I was once a Catholic. I bought into the Catholic idea, right? And I thought that was 100% true until I started to change my mind on, like, based on, you know, external influences or whatever it may have been, or just my mind started to mature in a way no different than a child eventually realizes that Santa Claus ain't real. You know? But everybody stays either a big child or they'll mature to the point that they'll start to see things a little bit differently. You get what I'm saying? You start to break the programs, but you have to have a realization that there's something wrong first. You know what I'm saying? Or something, but there may not be nothing wrong. You know what I'm saying? Because even in the worst things, you can find the greatest things out of the worst things. But it would require you to find that within the problem itself. You get what I'm saying? So this money, fiat currency, there's a lot of information online about the government, the corporation, how everything is managed out here. It's all you. And at the end of the day, you start to ask yourself how you manage yourself. Think of it like this. You start to ask yourself, because you watch conspiracy theories and whatnot, why are there traditions where we tell little white lies to our kids, like Santa Claus, the Easter Bunny, the Tooth Fairy, and we do it in all these different months, which we call different seasons, right? Excuse me, my throat was dry though. Well, we call them different seasons, right? So think of it like this. You tell your kids that little white lie, right? Who are you to blame outside of you for giving you little white lies, such as the government? So and it could be done through ignorance. It doesn't matter. See, ignorance is not an excuse, because what you're doing is exactly what they're doing to you, and then you're sitting there in victim mode. You're nothing but a big child. The reason I say this is because your kids look up to you, and a lot of people look up to the government. The system is structured a certain way where even people put all their faith in doctors, and doctors are just licensed practitioners to practice medicine. You get what I'm saying? Their intentions may have been good because they genuinely want to help people, but they don't know any better. They went to school to follow a system to assist people, and they're being a service, right? Where they'll even give you medical insurance. This is all service. There is no bad and good. If you buy into it, then it's a service to you. Again, if I'm a street drug dealer and you're a crackhead and I happen to have crack and I give you crack, I was just a service to you. You gave me money, I gave you product. That's service, right? The pharmaceutical industry does the exact same thing, right? The religious system does the exact same thing. You buy into the idea of an external God outside of you. You buy into the idea of evil and good, and that's what keeps the church in business, is your belief in the fact that there's bad and good, and you're siding with good to face evil, and you don't even want to indulge or go near evil. You're straight polarized to one end. You know what I'm saying? That's imbalance, okay? Neutrality is balance. Your own body, okay, wants to maintain neutral-based dominance, slightly alkaline, which is slightly feminine. You get what I'm saying? But you got to look at it from a balanced standpoint. You get what I'm saying? Why would you want to suppress yourself from knowledge of the opposite? If I'm going to war, right? You notice how war generals, they'll send spies, you know, to basically gain information from their opposer, from the opposing country, to win the war, right? You may even see this in MMA. You may have people trying to infiltrate certain gyms, because I've seen it happen, to try to see their training to basically have an edge on that person. So if you're a ultra super Christian and you don't want to learn at least about astrology or learn about evil and what it is, then how could you face evil? You will know nothing about it. It's wise to know a little bit about your opponent, right? Study your opponent a little bit. I mean, fighters do this. They watch tape on their opponent when they fought somebody else to see the holes in the game and whatnot. Why wouldn't you do the same thing? Oh, because it's evil to do that? You shouldn't do that because it's evil to even consume that level of information? Right? Who says? Who says? So think of it from many different perspectives. Like change your point of view. Okay? Change your point of view. And I'm gonna get in the next video as to how the little mind control works. You know, with these little viral waves and whatnot. Because it goes online to what we actually experience as pandemics. But I'll make that in my next video. We'll talk soon.